Ever wondered if a few sentences could literally wipe billions of dollars off a global market? Well, today we're looking at a time that's exactly what happened, when a few words from the White House sent the entire oil market into an absolute tailspin. Just look at this number, negative 10.3% in a single day. That's how much the global benchmark for oil, Brent Crude, plunged. I mean, that is a staggering drop by any measure. So you have to ask, what could possibly trigger a collapse that dramatic? That's the question we're unpacking today. And the answer, it really reveals just how fragile these global markets can be. To really understand the cause, we first have to appreciate the sheer scale of the effect. So let's look at the numbers and see just how truly wild this day of trading was. The speed of this fall was just breathtaking. I mean, the day before, prices had spiked to nearly $120 a barrel. Just hours later, they crashed below $89. That's a swing of over $30, a massive financial shockwave. So what was the trigger? All of that chaos wasn't caused by some new oil discovery or a sudden drop in demand. Nope, it was sparked by a single political statement. It really sets up an incredible cause and effect story. But, for words to have that kind of power, the market had to be coiled up like a spring, just ready to snap. To understand the plunge, we first have to get why prices were so dangerously high to begin with. So in the 2 weeks leading up to this crash, a conflict had erupted, sucking in more than a dozen countries. This led directly to the closure of a critical waterway, which then caused major producers to cut their output, sending prices soaring right past that psychological barrier of $100 a barrel. And this is why this situation was so serious. The Strait of Hormuz, it isn't just a line on a map. You gotta think of it as the main artery for a huge chunk of the world's oil. So when tankers stop sailing through it, the global supply chain basically has a heart attack. The dominoes just fell so fast. Key producers like Saudi Arabia and the UAE had to slash their output because their storage tanks were literally full. Refineries started shutting down, and a bidding war erupted among Asian nations just desperate to secure any available shipments. It was a true supply crunch. Okay, so the stage is set, right? We've got a tense, fragile market teetering on the edge. Now let's look at the exact words that pushed it over. This is the turning point of the entire story. It's March 9th. Oil prices are skyrocketing. The pressure is mounting, and President Trump steps up to a podium at a news conference. You can imagine, the whole world is listening, waiting to see what the administration is going to do. And this was the first verbal bombshell, a direct hint that the conflict driving this whole crisis might be nearing its end. Now, for a market starved of good news, this was a massive signal, a huge sign of potential de-escalation. And then came this, the confirmation of intent. He flat out stated the administration's goal was to bring prices down. See, this wasn't just a comment on the war, it was a declaration of intervention in the energy market. And he backed it up with a two-step plan. He announced they were looking to waive sanctions and, crucially, to use the U.S. Navy to escort tankers, directly addressing that Hormuz choke point. This made his statements feel concrete and, actionable. So, the market heard the news and it reacted instantly. But what was that reaction really? Was it a calculated sigh of relief or something way more chaotic? Well, there were two competing ways to see it. On one hand, you had traders hoping this was the beginning of the end of the crisis. But on the other hand, you had seasoned analysts who were worried, seeing a statement that was pretty light on specifics and that could trigger a wave of panicked, headline-driven selling. This quote from Vandana Hari of Vanda Insights, it just perfectly captures that skeptical view. She points out that simply saying the war will end isn't enough to get these multi-million-dollar tankers moving again. She suggested investors might just be panic selling, not reacting to a fundamental change. So what's the big takeaway here? This single event tells us something really profound about the nature of modern energy markets. Let's connect the dots. The data from this day is just incredible. For Brent, it was the largest drop ever recorded from a day's high to its closing price. And for the US benchmark WTI, it traded in a massive $38 band, the widest range since that bizarre moment during the pandemic when prices actually went negative. This was truly historic volatility. And this is the bottom line. It shows that global markets are balanced on a knife's edge, reacting with incredible force, not just to actions, but to the mere suggestion of future actions. Words, in this case, were every bit as powerful as warships or oil rigs. Which leaves us with a final question to think about. When market value can be created or destroyed by a single speech, what is the true price of a barrel of oil? Is it based on supply and demand, or is it really based on fear and hope?